All right, let's start with a story. Meet Janardhan. But, when he's on the clock, you call him John. Every single night, he puts on an American accent and spends his shift talking to customers who are thousands of miles away. It's a job that literally wouldn't exist if our world wasn't so connected.
Okay, now let's go to Ram Dari. He's just picking out a birthday gift for his daughter. That bicycle she's been dreaming of? Yep, made in China. And last year's Barbie doll? That was made in the US. Both of them just sitting right there on a shelf in his local market in India. It's a really simple purchase, right? But think about it. It connects factories and families across entire continents.
And for our last story, meet Sarika. Now, she is a first-generation college grad, and she just landed a job that, honestly, her mother and grandmother could only have dreamed about. This isn't just a job. It's an opportunity that's challenging tradition and completely rewriting her family's future.
So, let's recap. We've got a call center worker in India who becomes an American every night. We've got a bicycle from China, and we have a career that breaks generations of tradition. What in the world connects these three completely different stories?
Well, the answer, of course, is globalization. I know. You hear that word and you probably think it's just some boring buzzword for economists, but these stories, they show you just how personal it really is. It's this massive force that's shaping our lives every single day. So, all right, let's actually break this thing down.
So, what is globalization really? I mean, what does it actually mean? If your first thought is, oh, it's just about money and trade, well, you're not wrong, but you're only seeing the very tip of the iceberg. It goes so much deeper than that.
Okay, so at its core, the textbook definition talks about worldwide interconnectedness. Pretty vague, right? A much better way to think about it is to think about flows. Yeah, flows. It's all about the constant movement, the flow of ideas, of money, of goods, and of people, all crisscrossing borders and weaving this incredible web that connects every single one of us.
And here's what's really interesting. This interconnectedness isn't just some big, messy blob. It actually breaks down very neatly into four fundamental flows. First, you've got ideas. Think about democracy or a new viral trend just spreading across the world. Then you've got capital, we're talking money, zipping between countries in the blink of an eye. You have commodities being traded, just like Ramdari's bicycle. And of course, you have people moving, often in search of a better life. Okay. I can hear you thinking, but wait a minute. People and goods have always moved across borders. The Silk Road, right? And you're absolutely right. So what's the big deal now? Well, the crucial difference comes down to just two words: scale and speed. Today's technology, everything from the microchip to the internet, has basically put these flows on hyperdrive. It's connecting the planet in ways that were quite literally unimaginable just a generation or two ago. Now you can imagine, when you connect the entire world this tightly and this quickly, it's bound to have some massive political consequences. And that brings us to a really huge debate. As the world gets more and more connected, are national governments actually gaining power, or are they losing it?
And believe me, there are really strong arguments on both sides of this. On the one hand, you've got the people who say globalization definitely weakens the state. They'll point to how the old welfare state is shrinking, getting replaced by a minimalist state where it's the market, not the government, that calls the shots. But then you have the total counter-argument. It says the state is far from dead. In fact, technology gives governments these incredible, unprecedented tools to collect information and keep an eye on their citizens. And that's the great paradox here, right? The state seems to be pulling back with one hand, but gaining these powerful new abilities with the other.
All right, let's shift gears and talk about the economic side of things. And I'll tell you, this is where the arguments get really heated. It all boils down to one simple but fiercely debated question. Who actually benefits from all this? So the critics, they're deeply concerned about social justice. They argue that this whole system just makes a small, wealthy group even richer, while stripping away support systems for the poor and the vulnerable. For them, it can be a path to ruin for weaker countries. But the advocates, they paint a completely different picture. They'll tell you that a global marketplace creates more economic growth for everyone. By letting each country focus on what it does best, they say, the whole world wins. And for them, trying to resist it is, well, it's like trying to stop the tide from coming in.
And some of that criticism can be absolutely scathing. I mean, just listen to this. Some economists have gone so far as to label economic globalization as, and I'm quoting here, recolonization of the world. That is a powerful charge. It basically frames the whole thing as a new kind of empire where powerful, rich countries are the ones calling all the shots.
Okay, so we've talked politics, we've talked money. Let's shift now to something maybe even more personal: culture.
I mean, globalization affects the food we eat, the music we listen to, the clothes we wear, everything. And that brings up a really provocative question. Is it just erasing unique local cultures and making us all the same?
So, there's definitely this big fear of something called cultural homogenization. It's basically the idea that one single, dominant Western culture is taking over everything. You've probably heard the term McDonaldization, right? That's the fear, that all our unique local traditions are being replaced by this bland, uniform global culture. But there's a really compelling counterargument. It's called cultural heterogenization, and this view says that no, instead of making us all the same, these global flows are actually creating more diversity, more fusion, and more unique styles.
And these examples really nail this idea. I mean, is eating a burger a substitute for a masala dosa? Of course not. It just means you have another choice for lunch. And can you wear blue jeans with a traditional homespun kurta? Absolutely. And when you do that, you're creating a totally new and unique style. See, it's not about erasing one thing for another. It's about adding to it. It's about cultural fusion.
So, with debates this intense raging across politics, economics, and culture, it's absolutely no surprise that there's been some serious pushback. But here's the best part, the real irony. The resistance to globalization has itself gone global.
And it's really important to note this isn't just one single unified group of protesters. You've got critics from the political left who basically argue this is just capitalism on steroids, making the rich richer and the poor poorer. Then you have critics from the political right who are more worried about the state losing power and want to bring back things like self-reliance and protectionism. And then, of course, you have the cultural critics who are worried that those age-old traditional values are just being washed away.
And this resistance, it isn't just a bunch of people shouting into the wind. It has become highly organized. A huge turning point was back in 1999 with the massive protests in Seattle against the World Trade Organization. That event really helped spark a more formal global movement, and it led to the creation of things like the World Social Forum, which is basically a huge global platform for activists to connect, coordinate, and strategize. And it's still very active today.
And all of this brings us to one final, absolutely fascinating twist. To fight against globalization, what tools do these movements use? Well, they use the tools of globalization. The internet, global media, international travel, all of these things are essential for organizing this worldwide resistance. Which leaves us with a pretty mind-bending question to end on. If you use global networks to connect and organize your fight against globalization, aren't you, in a way, also a form of globalization? Definitely something to chew on.